interview really is, and why you should prepare them from home before when you prepare for the interview itself. So I'm Diana Lundarsson, and I am a career consultant for international academics focused on getting a job in Denmark. Whether you're in Denmark or not yet, I can help you out. You can find a link on my channel to talk more about that if you're interested. So when we are at the interview, a lot of the time people are super nervous, which is totally understandable. And they are thinking of this as, I'm the one being interviewed. I'm the one who needs to do well, and I'm the one who is being interrogated. And to be honest, that's not the case. Well, it is, but it's not. In Denmark, we have this, we call it a job interview, but we also have another word for it, which is called a job conversation, directly translated from job-samtale, which is Danish, right? And I think that really gives a better idea of what a job interview actually is in Denmark. It is a conversation, because the important thing here is that a job interview or a job conversation is not just for the company to figure out if they want to hire you. It is also for you to figure out if you actually want to join the company. So the interview is also for you to ask your questions. This is the important part, right? Because when you ask your questions, you get the chance to evaluate if this is somewhere that you really think makes sense for you to work. So the importance of asking really, really good questions and being really well prepared with these types of questions based on who you are, who the company is, maybe even who the team is, and also what the position is what's gonna really, really help you when you prepare. You've, of course, before you even read your material, you've done your research on the company. When you get called in for the interview, you do even more research, right? And then it's when it's important to kind of figure out what are the good questions to ask here. And it's about sitting down and figuring out, who are you in terms of, this is also, I'm just like, it's so important to remember that knowing yourself is going to make it so important and be so helpful for you in terms of also finding the right job. Hi Maya, nice to see you, and thank you for the likes and the comments and all of that. If you want to know more about getting to know yourself and your values, look at the live I did yesterday. Because the thing is that when you know who you are and know your own values, you can use that to ask really, really good questions at the interview. And these questions that you can ask are a basis to figure out if you match the company, if you think that this company is somewhere that would be interesting for you to work, if it's somewhere where you would thrive and where you would like to be. Because again, a job interview is not just for them to figure out if they want you, it's also for you to figure out if you want them. And let me give you two examples. One that turned out well and one that turned out it seemed like it turned out well, but it really didn't, right? So, and this goes back to both questions, but also values, right? So the first example is from when I was looking for a job, and I had this interview, and on paper, this job sounded super nice. It was like at a period where I was unemployed. So the funny thing is, the longer you're unemployed, the more interesting a lot of different jobs sound, right? But nonetheless, I was like, first job out of university, looking for that, and like figuring out what is it that could be interesting here. And I got to this job interview, and the people who were interviewing me, they were like bickering between themselves. They were like, it was just like so, I don't know if it was obvious because I don't know what happens like kind of behind the scenes, but it just seemed like it was such a toxic place to work. So asking the questions and like being in that, and not even necessarily asking questions, but to be honest, I don't remember if I did back then. It's like 10 years ago. But what it did make me do was like figuring out that this feels wrong. Like I don't want to be in this environment where this is like the feel I have. So the next day I called them up and I said, thank you so much for allowing me to interview with you guys. I appreciate it, but to be honest, I don't really feel like this is the place for me. And it's not about telling them that you guys seem like you suck. It's not at all. And that wasn't like that. That's not what it is, right? It's just like politely calling them and saying, hey, thank you for the opportunity to interview, but no thank you, it is not for me. And for me, I know that I did the right thing because she kind of got mad at me for turning down the job. And to be honest, I think they were a bit desperate as well to find someone. But I'm really happy that I did that, because I was just like, I know if I'm gonna put myself in that situation, even though the then current situation was not perfect by any means. It really sucked actually as well, being unemployed and had been that for a while, which is why I started helping other people as well, like learning all of the things I learned and interviewing and all of that. Then after that, like figuring out that I'm really happy that I said no, because it it just meant that I was listening to myself. Sad no one is here. Thank you. The good thing about these videos is that they keep being live on the platform. So even when there's not a lot of people here live, then there's always the opportunity for people to see it later. And you're very welcome to ask questions in the chat if you have any, both if you're seeing it live, but also if you are on looking at it later on replay, and then I can answer there. The second example of knowing your values and like asking the right questions that seemed to go well, but actually ended up not being super amazing for my situation and for me myself, was that I had another job interview where I, again, the job was really cool. Like I was like, this sounds like a really, really good job. And I ended up getting offered the job and I ended up saying yes. But at the job interview, I had this feeling in my stomach of like, hmm, this doesn't feel quite right. There's like this one person that I feel like it's not like that we don't communicate well with each other, right? But I was so excited about the job and like all these things. I think if I had asked better questions in that interview, that could have been a benefit, because it ended up with I got offered the job, I took the job, and I ended up almost getting a sick leave from stress from that job, because that feeling in my stomach was right. We did not communicate well with each other. And that is so hard. And putting myself in this situation, and for you, putting yourself in that type of situation can be so devastating, and it can really ruin your mental health, your health in general. Like there's so many things that can be affected by this. So when you have the opportunity at the job interview, ask your questions, because this is a job conversation. This is also for you to determine, is this important enough for you to either say yes and leave a previous job, or is it something that you're like, I'm gonna try this out and see how it goes, or this is just perfect. Like there's so many opportunities, right? But the more desperate we are, the worse situations we also end up putting ourselves in. um I remember as well that when I realized at some point where I was like, it doesn't, like, the interviews are amazing. I'm doing the interviews because I would like to get that other job, and that was cool, right? But what really made the difference for also how I performed at the interviews, when I did all the prep work, asked all the right questions, but going into an interview and being like, you know what? if I don't get this job, it's also okay. There's going to be other opportunities. It doesn't matter. And it's not that it doesn't matter, but it's a question of the attitude that I would go into these interviews with, and being like more secure in myself, that my self-worth was not based on whether I got the job offer or not, because I know that I'm good at what I do, right? But I just might not fit into that specific workplace or in that specific context. So super important to kind of get to know yourself and use that knowledge to ask good questions so you can evaluate those positions and that company and those potential new colleagues. Hi, Cutie Gaming. Thank you for all the comments. So I hope this makes a lot of sense, that when you are at a job interview, and I don't care what job interview, I work with academics, but whether it's academics or in service or in detail or whatever it is, make sure that you ask these questions to figure out if this is a place for you or not. If you want to know about the values, remember the video from yesterday, you can go in and watch that. The video tomorrow is going to be about work-life balance in Denmark. So let's see if I can come up with something interesting about that, because it's very different. And what I hear from a lot of people in international or from internationals, that is that the work-life balance is really why they want to work in Denmark. So I'm very excited to cover that topic tomorrow. And let me see, I think I have it on my calendar for 4 o'clock tomorrow. I do. So tomorrow around 4, if you want to know more about work-life balance in Denmark, drop by. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the hearts and likes today. Remember to subscribe if you want more about job search in Denmark, especially for internationals, but everything, of course, also applies to Danish people. So have an amazing rest of your weekend if you're watching live, and if you're not, just have an amazing rest of your day. Bye.